things you need to know.
From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 6 a.m. on a Monday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Portland Trail Blazers snap a 3-game skid with a 134-127 overtime win over the Brooklyn Nets. Anthony Simon led the way for the Blazers with 38 points. Big overtime period for Malcolm Brogdon as the Blazers get a much-needed win. The NFL playoff picture is set. The Browns will take on the Texans. That's right, the Houston Texans are your division winner. They're going to the postseason. Dolphins will face the Chiefs, Steelers, and the Bills. Mason Rudolph paves the way for the Steel City to go back to the playoffs. Packers, Cowboys, Rams, Lions, and Eagles, Bucks. And tonight we have a national championship game. The Washington Huskies will meet up against the Michigan Wolverines for all the marbles. Cam Meller from the College Football Network will be joining us in hour number 3. I will attempt to talk through the emotional roller coaster that I am on with regard to the Washington Huskies and a ton of football to talk about here on a Monday. It's RCM on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's time for Justin Myers to wake you up here on Rip City Mornings, 620 Rip City Radio.
And a very happy Monday. It is RCM. I am your host, Justin Myers. Super producer Brendan is safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us or staying up late. However you are rolling on this particular Monday. A lot of stuff to dive into on the big show today. It's a bittersweet day for me. It's a bittersweet day.
That's why Michael Scott didn't like bittersweet chocolate. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning. But it is, Brendan, a bittersweet day for me because you know I love college football. I love it. And while it used to be New Year's Day was like, that was it, college football's over, they've granted us an extra week with the college football playoff. It is now going to be the ultimate end of the college football playoff, which we may discuss on the big show today. Like, did the college football playoff work? Did it work? Because we're going to a 12-team playoff and coming from the old bowl system, and we have had this weird middle with semifinals, and they're kind of bowl games, but they're kind of not. And so we're going to have this discussion coming up a little bit later on in the program. Did the college football playoff work for what did we have it? 10 years that we had it? I think it's Jeff, 2014 to 2020. Well, I guess it'd be 9 years. Sorry, it's the 2014 season. So, regardless, we're going to dive into that. Also, I'm in a tough spot emotionally. I don't like Schadenfreude. Now, if you don't know what Schadenfreude is the German philosophy of joy from the misery of others. You aren't experiencing joy, but the fact that your enemies are experiencing misery brings you joy. And there's a lot of sports schadenfreude. I think some Blazer fans are dealing with it with the Lakers right now, right? Lakers are falling apart once again, which we may get into in Round Ball Rock, and it's kind of fun. Distraction from the Blazers, who are clearly in the middle of a rebuild. But hey, boys got a nice win yesterday. Needed that one. Nice overtime win. I have some questions with regard to the Blazers because we're in a conundrum there. But back to the Schadenfreude. Because the Washington Huskies are in the national title game. And if you look into the future of Oregon football, which is the football team that I love, and most of you already know that, if Washington were to beat Michigan, that would be huge for the 4 West Coast teams going into the Big Ten next year. Be huge. That game, the weekend of Thanksgiving at Autzen Stadium, would be gigantic. And it would be a shot across the bow to the existing Big Ten schools. Like, hey, USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington came to play. But, Brendan, I see that purple. You know, it's in my own house. Because, obviously, I'm married to a very happy, like, skipping through the weekend Washington love, feeling no dread because she is an optimist, which I appreciate in most parts of our life. But I'm seeing a lot of purple. And I want to be the bigger guy, right? But I just can't help it. I can't help it. And because I can't help it, much like the Pac-12 championship game, my wife and I shall be watching the game separately. I was told, yeah. She watched the national semifinal with me, and I did the whole press box move. So for those of you that don't know, Brendan, you know this because you've sat in press boxes a lot. Technically, there is no cheering. Now, you grew up as an Oregon State fan, going to games in the stands, head to toe, in the gear, doing the, you're cranking it like a chainsaw, and you do your little, you know what I mean, the OSU thing, and the first, like, all that. You were all in on all that every Saturday. Well, then you became one of us. You got a credential, which got you a nice little seat, got you some warm tomato soup up in the Research Stadium press box. Sometimes there's a pillar in front of you, but regardless, you got the nice, warm, dry seats. And for that, your payment, you were technically no longer a fan, at least not outwardly. And it was a tough transition for me. 2004 was my first year. I sat in the press box. Probably bit the lip a lot. Now, 2004 was also a bad football season for Oregon. They stunk. But I went from, like you, like I was a fan my whole life. And then I sat, now after years and years of sitting in the press box, I can shut it down. I can watch a game silent, even at home. And so I was like, Washington's playing Texas. I do not want Washington to win this game, but my life partner, my lovely wife, very much wants them to win this game. I might as well have been a credentialed member of the media because I sat in silence. And so I have been told since that the silence isn't working. So she's off to watch the game with her friends, her Husky friends. I don't know what they do at their little Husky parties, but that's where she's out. Where are you at? Are you enemy of my enemy as my friend, or are you still mad about the Big Ten stuff with Washington?
I hate Michigan more than life itself.
I hate Michigan more than life. Connor Stallions, Jim Harbaugh. This year. This
is like Michigan's become my adopted team to hate because they're cheaters. So that's really as simple as it is. The same way that y'all heard me. I still haven't let the Astros off years and years later. So they're cheaters, and I don't like to see cheaters win. And I think Jim Harbaugh is smug in his little khaki pants. And I'd like to see old Kalen DeBoer and Michael Penix run up about 50 on him tonight. I don't know if that'll happen, but, man, I'm pulling for the dogs. I got my W over here, Justin.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that.
You're going to root for I guess I was going to say you're going to root for a different opponent. But considering Michigan's your co-conference opponent now.
Root for no one. I root for no one in this game. I know the outcome I would like to see, but I shall root for no one. We'll find out as I'm sitting at home watching the game alone. But that is a wild thing. Let's talk about this real quick. We got some time. Because I think much like the Astros, when the Astros, they got busted, then the COVID happened, right? Like the Astros, cheating happens in baseball, whatever technically, cheating is part of baseball. From spitballs that they had to outlaw to corked bats to sign stealing. And I've always felt that the line, because everybody tries to steal signs, and there are ways to steal signs, and it's kind of your job to disguise your signs and your signals and all that stuff. But the sign stealing, once it became like, oh, the broadcast is fast enough digitally that we can see on a TV 30 feet away what pitch is coming, and we can relay that. Whether that's through buzzers, because they definitely had buzzers.
I mean, I don't know, Justin. I'm no expert in the intricacies of playing baseball at the highest level. You have more higher experience than I do. Was it helpful? Would it be helpful if you knew a curveball was coming? Or
yes.
You knew a changeup was coming?
Massively
helpful. Or a
helpful.
fastball? That seems like a pretty good advantage, no?
Massively helpful. And by the way, there's some people that are like, oh, it didn't help me. It's like, yeah, you're a liar. You're a liar. It's like when Mark McGuire came out and said, like, I mean, steroids don't help you hit a curveball. Then why'd you take them? Just to look big? Like, yeah.
Vanity, Justin.
When you did connect to that curveball, it went a long way. Yes, if you know fastball versus off speed, that's it. It's like in football. If you're a defensive coordinator with Connor Stallions, right? If you're a defensive coordinator and you know pass and run, you don't have to know all of what you just know pass and run. It's a huge advantage.
So Russell Wilson was on to something then.
No, he was not, because he was calling it as it was happening. Connor Stallions was at least calling it before, right? He looked to the sidelines, and they're all going, like, up in the air. It is going to be a pass, right? If you know pass and run, just like in baseball, if you know fastball, off speed, that's all you don't have to know exactly where. You don't need to know location. You just need to know, hey, fastball's coming or fastball's not coming. Huge advantage. Huge. But the Astros, after COVID, right, they got their little slap on the wrist. And we all kind of forgot about it because we were stuck inside, and we were all kind of robbed of what was supposed to be the Hate Astros tour of 2020, because it's like, well, no fans in the stands. And then in 2021, they were in the World Series. They were there. They were in the World Series. Now, they were beaten down by an incredibly superior team, a team for the ages, I have heard. But they were back in the World Series, clearly not cheating because they'd been caught. And then the next year, they won. They won it all. They beat the Phillies. So,
yeah,
there's a little bit of we probably were cheating, but also we were really good. And other than you, which I respect the grudge, most people have kind of, all right, it's funny, Astros garbage can, that'll forever be a thing. But I don't think they are the villains of baseball anymore, because, like, they clearly won after they were caught cheating, showing that it might have been a part of it, but they were plenty good. I think the same is going on for Michigan, but it's happened way faster. Connor Stallions gets exposed. By the way, who do we give credit for that? Is that a Greg Schiano? Remember Greg Schiano and his halftime thing say, like, some bad things are happening. They're going, like, and all these coaches start calling the Big Ten. But Connor Stallions was, like, out with, like, 4 games to go. And clearly, everybody knew, all their opponents were like, we got to change signals. And Michigan still beat the tar out of all of them. Like, they ran the ball, was it against Penn State? Where they just were like, we're not going to pass. You can't stop the run. We're going to run the ball. So I do think there is a little bit of like, hey, Michigan just ran roughshod over Penn State, who was top 10 team at the time, massively overrated. They beat Maryland on the road. They beat Ohio State. They won the Big Ten championship against Iowa, but they won the Big Ten championship, and they shut them out. And Connor Stallions and their cheating had nothing to do with any of that. And so I think there are some people who are, and then beat Alabama on neutral field, right? None of those with signals. So we've all kind of, it's a funny story, but let us never forget that the Michigan Wolverines had an assistant coach dressed up like another team's assistant coach to scout future. He was on the Central Michigan sideline. For as long as I will be alive, it's like when I think of Connor Stallions, I would think of like, oh, you mean the guy that went and played dress up like a Central Michigan assistant coach so that he could scout, I think it was Michigan State?
Hey, man, you got to scout the Spartans.
He dressed up as another team's assistant coach.
Michigan State was pretty good this year, Justin.
And then Michigan. But you never knew. You didn't know going into it, right? They were terrible.
Well, I think you knew. Well, when was Mel put on leave?
Oh, boy. That was like week 2?
Okay. Fair enough.
It was like week 2?
So it was into the season. I forget. It's all, so it was like week 3 when they contacted Jonathan.
Because I think it was that week as they were playing Washington. And it was like, whoa, what's going to... And then Washington was like, yeah, we're going to beat the tar out of these guys. But
that feels like so long ago.
Doesn't it?
Yet not that long ago at the same time. So nutty.
But just I'm with you on Michigan, but I think those 4 games where they won without cheating, everybody's like, It's a funny story now as opposed to a diabolical story.
I'll give you that.
And maybe I'm just doing that because I see that purple. And I got some emotions. I got some emotions that I'm dealing with.
So you won't be putting up your W tonight.
Tonight or any other night. Yet, here's the thing. Where I am my wife goes to Oregon football games with me, sits in the stands, openly is excited when my team wins. And I can't do the same. Can't do the same for her team. Am I a bad person? I don't know. I'm dealing with a lot right now. We're dealing with a lot, but we're going to shift gears. We're going to talk some NFL. Coaches are being fired. Teams are in the playoffs. How about the Houston Texans? Do we give the Houston Texans enough respect on the season and what they have done with C.J. Stroud? The Seahawks get a win off a couple missed field goals, but because of a Green Bay win, they missed the postseason. We got a lot to talk about. Big NFL segment coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, yesterday saw the final regular season weekend of the NFL. We got some crazy playoff matchups, by the way. For those in the conspiracy theory world of the NFL is scripted, there's some nuggets here for you. I do not believe that. Let me just throw that out there. I do not believe the NFL is scripted. Case in point, the fact that the Dallas Cowboys have not won a championship since the mid-'90s tells you exactly why. But the football universe gave us some interesting matchups, Brendan. I didn't realize all of this, but let's go over some of the familiarity. Browns Texans. While Deshaun Watson will not be playing, there's the Deshaun Watson Bowl right there between the Browns and the Texans. We're gonna talk about the Texans here in a moment. Dolphins Chiefs. Tyreek Hill back to Kansas City. I mean, is Tyreek Hill maybe the reason why the Chiefs? Now the Chiefs seemed to be just fine a year ago, right? They seemed to be just fine a year ago without Tyreek Hill, but it's always funny how like the lazy narrative happens. Like, oh, what's wrong with the Chiefs? They don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. It's like, they didn't have him last year. They won the Super Bowl. So you got Dolphins Chiefs, Tyreek Hill, but Packers Cowboys. Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl with the Packers. Now he's going to have to get past his old team to get a postseason win. Because you know if Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys as NFC East champions, if they lose to the Packers in the first round.
He's cooked. Gone. I think they'd fire him and promote Dan Quinn. I really do.
And then the best matchup. Of course, the Lions finally do it. They find a head coach. A head coach that can win with Jared Goff. And they get over the hump. They're not only in the playoffs, they are hosting a playoff game in Detroit, Rock City. The Motor City is hosting a playoff game. And who do you get to face? Your old girlfriend, Matt Stafford. Your old gal, Matt Stafford's going to come in. And by the way, of all the teams like you do not want to be facing in the Super Wild Card round, sadly, I think it's the Bills, which my beloved Steelers have to go to Buffalo and take on the Bills, who figured some things out like 6 weeks ago. Oh, well, you take what you get. But the Rams are a team I don't know if I'd want to be facing anytime soon, especially if you're the Lions and it's Matt Stafford. So, bravo. Bravo to the football universe. I do want to talk about the Texans here because it was, I don't know, like a month ago, maybe even more a month ago. Remember the rumors started swirling, Brendan, about Caleb Williams saying, I may not go to the NFL. I may not go to the NFL. I might just stick around in college. And by the way, if you saw that picture, did you see that picture of Caleb Williams in his apartment there in like downtown LA? Whew. I'm not solely familiar with the how much the rent would be or if he owns, if that's a nice little condo. But either way, his NIL deal, lucrative. And good for him. He's one of the most famous guys in all of college football. And he might be the number one overall pick. But remember about a month and a half ago, where it was like, I may not go to the NFL. And there were some people who were like, if you can make money in college, and let's just say the team that has the number one pick, before we knew it was going to be the Bears, you didn't know like who it was going to be. And there were some people that are like, yeah, well, if you're Caleb Williams and you have the option to go back, you don't want to go to a bad franchise. If you go to a bad franchise, it can derail your career. Like that was a pretty not even spicy. It's a pretty normalized take, right? Is like if you go as a number one pick and you go to a bad franchise, even if you are good as a quarterback, it can derail your career. But problem with that theory is that the evidence doesn't always stack up with you. Because I've mentioned a handful of times, and I am a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They play in the AFC North, and let me tell you, the Cincinnati Bengals, before Joe Burrow got there, was a joke of a franchise. Yeah, they made the playoffs with Marvin Lewis, but they would early exit. They had off-the-field problems. Their ownership, notoriously cheap. They didn't have an indoor practice facility until like 2 years ago. Like notoriously cheap. Guess what? They got the number 1 overall pick. I remember when Carson Palmer was the number 1 overall pick, and Boomer Esiason jokingly said, "Welcome to the dysfunctional family that is the Cincinnati Bengals." Cincinnati Bengals have been a dysfunctional, no one would ever say is one of the greatest franchises in NFL history. Joe Burrow gets there, and now obviously dealing with some injuries this year, but Joe Burrow gets there, right coach, right quarterback. They're in the Super Bowl in like 3 years. They're going to be a problem in the division.
For what it's worth, Jamar Chase helped too.
Clearly.
Back-to-back, like Joe Burrow tearing his ACL, terrible early on, but if he doesn't tear his ACL, they get the position to get Jamar Chase.
Sure.
And
it all helps, exactly right. But the catalyst was Joe Burrow, right? The Buffalo Bills. How about the Buffalo Bills before Josh Allen got there? I mean, yeah, I know about the history, and I know the Jim Kelly era. Obviously, I lived through it. I was there in the 90s, right? But their stadium was falling apart, right? Bills Mafia is, they're drunk by halftime because they can't watch it. Guess what? They get Josh Allen. All of a sudden, and they were in the same division as Tom Brady for a long, long, long time. But they get Josh Allen. All of a sudden, the fortunes of that franchise changes. Another example, but it's not as relevant right now because they lost yesterday. But, the Jacksonville Jaguars were a joke of a franchise. And then guess what? They got Trevor Lawrence. And now, while they lost yesterday, thankfully, yes, they're not so much of a joke anymore. Did Jacksonville's organization derail Trevor Lawrence's? No. The same as the Bills organization. You want to know why? Because those guys are franchise-changing talents. You're either a franchise-changing talent or you're not. And look at the Houston Texans. Was there a more maligned organization in the NFL over the last 4 years than the Houston Texans? Before we knew about Deshaun Watson's extracurriculars, remember he was a Pro Bowl quarterback, setting records, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm out. I want to be traded."
Led the league in passing.
Bill O'Brien was their head coach, and it's like traded DeAndre Hopkins because he's like, I don't want this guy on my team. Like, the Texans were a bumbling mess. Remember also at the end of last season when Lovie Smith won that game, and it was like, what are the Texans doing? Guess what? C.J. Stroud he's rookie of the year. He's a franchise-changing quarterback. They got the right coach in DeMeco Ryans. They got the right quarterback who's taken them to the playoffs as a rookie. And you either get the right guy or you don't. So I understand the thought process of, if you are the potential number 1 pick, the last thing you want to do is go to a bad franchise. They'll derail you. It's like, well, there was never a franchise worse than the Texans like 2 years ago. Right? Deshaun Watson thing was a mess. The Bill O'Brien thing was a mess. Didn't they have like a general manager who had like no business being a general manager? Like they had like a guy in the football ops building who was essentially a motivational speaker who fell forward in like just kept climbing the ladder and is like, this guy is our player personnel guy. He's like, I think he was like the team chaplain. And then he ultimately like made it all the way up to like general manager. It's like on Seinfeld, like, hey, George, what do you want to do? General manager of the baseball team? It's like, yeah, you can't just do that. This guy did. They got C.J. Stroud and they got DeMeco Ryans and they've got some things figured out. And they have 180'd the Houston Texans, and they're back in the postseason. Because you're either a franchise-changing talent or you're not. So this whole thing, boy, if you're Caleb Williams, now he does have, if you're Caleb Williams, you do have options, you do have leverage. But I would say if you're the number 1 overall pick and you want to be a legendary football player, Shawshank Redemption, baby. Get busy living or get busy dying. Like, you can play like, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, that's a different situation altogether. Those two guys, from Bo Nix leaving Auburn, heading into his junior year, and the same with Michael Penix heading into his junior, those guys were off the draft board. Nobody was talking about Bo Nix going to the NFL before the 2022 season. Nobody was mentioning that. There were a lot of Washington fans, by the way. There were a lot of Washington fans when Kalen DeBoer got the job, and they're like, yeah, Michael Penix Jr. is going to be transferring in. He's going to be our starting quarterback. And Jake Haener, who they thought they were getting from Fresno State, transfer portaled in and transfer portaled out. And they're like, oh, Washington fans going like, this is DeBoer guy? He ran off Haener? Penix? This guy's, he's got 3 knee surgeries. Yeah. Check the receipts on those takes, by the way, this afternoon. That'd be a lot of fun. There are a lot of Oregon fans, too, that were like, Bo Nix? The guy just throws 57 picks a season. Like, yeah. Check the receipts on that. But those two guys came in, up their draft stock, and then coming back, making a little bit of NIL money so that if something did go horrifically wrong, you're not financially out to pasture. You're going to be all right. And both of them up their draft stock. Caleb Williams never going to get higher than, you can't get higher than number 1 pick. And it's going to be interesting to see what the Bears do. But for all the people that are like, be careful of the organization you go to, it's like the Texans, C.J. Stroud, because the Texans were a mess 2 years ago. And probably a good reason for that is because D'Amico Ryans came with that San Francisco 49er mindset. But a lot of it is, yeah, that rookie quarterback's pretty special. That dude's pretty good. All right, other NFL news and notes. A couple of coaches have already been fired. Did you see the end of that Atlanta-New Orleans game? How about that?
Yeah, again.
The New Orleans Saints head coach said, hey, so they got it. Oh, it was 41-17, right? Saints get a pick. They're down to the 1. Ball game's over. Take a knee and see what happens, right? Because they still needed help. The Saints did. They needed the Packers to lose.
Yeah, and I think they actually needed the Packers to lose and the Seahawks to lose.
So
that was cooked.
But at the time, at the time it was like, Seahawks were a field goal away. It was still an 8-point game in Green Bay. So it was like, take a knee, let's do a little scoreboard watching. And apparently Jameis Winston said, yeah, coach told us to take a knee. We decided as a team we're not going to do that. We want to score a touchdown. It's like, what?
I mean, it's last play of the season. At that point, I always like to say guys aren't on the sidelines with their phones, but guys have the Microsoft Surfaces on the sideline. I'm pretty sure they know what the scores of other games are. And by that point, I'm pretty sure.
You think Green Bay had already won? Because I know, the 2-minute drill with the Seahawks, right? When they ultimately went down and scored, and then got the 2-point conversion, the score was posted up in Arizona.
So
Green
that's
Bay
what
had won.
I would choose to think that way. Jameis Winston being like, for lack of better terms, the heck with it, and just let's do it, and all that. But
how wild is that? You're backup quarterback. You're down to the 1. Last game of the season. Coach goes, hey, victory formation, boys. Take a knee. Let's shake their hands. Do a little scoreboard watching. Even if the scoreboard watching was over, we get a nice taste in our mouth as we head off to Cancun or, the Caribbean or wherever else you guys are going to go. And Jameis Winston's like, yeah, we decided we're going to score a touchdown. And Arthur Smith was furious. And then Arthur Smith didn't even make it. I don't even know if he made it out of the building. He got fired. So,
Yeah, it was nice.
Falcons need a head coach.
Yeah, it was nice, Justin, and I saw this too. Shout out to the Commanders for not firing Ron Rivera on his birthday. Because yesterday was his birthday, so shout out to the...
They waited a day.
Yep. Shout out to the Commanders, man, for giving that man his time.
Well, normally today is what is known as Black Monday.
Black Monday,
right?
yep.
It's Black Monday in the NFL. But lately, and I don't know the reason because of it, but like lately you were seeing more and more coaches getting fired in the middle of the season, right? And we saw the Chargers make wholesale changes in the middle of the season. Clearly, Nathaniel Hackett a year ago. Anybody else get fired in the middle of the season this year?
Urban, not this year, but it was...
Urban got fired in the middle of the season last year.
No,
2 years ago.
2 years ago, sorry.
2 years ago.
Sorry, time flies.
There's somebody else that got fired.
We said Staley.
But either way, I know Brandon Staley got fired. And I guess the Falcons were just like, yeah, we're...
Josh McDaniels, Raiders.
Thank you.
But are they going to give it to the interim? Do you think that's... We have to talk about that at some point.
We had a whole offseason to talk about the Raiders. And did you see the pictures of their field, though? Like, grounds crew was like, guys, they were on 3-2-1 Cancun as well. Google Raiders like indoor grass, and it's like, that looks awful. Anyways. So you got the playoffs matchups, which we got a whole bunch of time to talk about. But that was crazy yesterday with the Saints. Like, yeah, coach.
That's bad grass, Justin. That's terrible grass. Oh, my gosh. They're ready for their vacation, too, Justin.
Yeah, it is one of the things about the NFL. Let's just talk about the NFL. Because, like, could you imagine? Now, it used to be back in the 80s, the old Boston Garden. Remember the old Boston Garden used to have, like, dead spots. And, like, the Celtics would actually, this is urban legend, but, like, the Celtics would, like, defensively pushed guys to the dead spots on the court, and that's where they would know to go for steals, or they would try to trap guys because there were dead spots in the Boston Garden parquet floor.
There's like some...
it was like the 80s.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, like other than any other stadium, there's some crazy, weird leprechaun type stuff that has gone on in Boston Garden. Not even their new arena, but I'm just like that. Like you said, the dead zones on the floor, the fact that it had no air conditioning and was like the hottest arena in all of basketball.
By like the end of May into June, it would be super hot in there, and like the Lakers would bring their own water because they didn't trust the water supply and all that stuff. But that was the 80s. Now it's like,
could you imagine that now?
My point is, could you imagine of like, you go to like, let's just say Milwaukee, right? Let's just say, and it's like notorious that the Milwaukee Bucks floor is bad. It's slippery or something. Like, no, you can't imagine that in the NBA because there's so many billions of dollars in the league. Like, the floors are immaculate. How do we have in the NFL, like, bad turf, bad grass, like a multi-billion-dollar organization that oversees what, 30? How many stadiums are there? Because there's 32 teams, 2 in LA share a stadium, 2 in New York share a stadium. So
30.
Either 29 or 30. Probably 30, right? It's 30 stadiums. You can't make sure you have like immaculate playing surfaces on all of them. How's that happen in a multi-bit? Like, how do you have the field in Las Vegas, brand new stadium, and the field is just bad? It's just terrible. All right, we got some more NFL to talk about coming up in a bit. Also, it is Round Ball Rock on the way as well. Blazers get a nice win, but some interesting news and notes in and around the NBA. But before we get to all that, I do want to tell you about our good friends at DeBella. I don't know if you saw the weather forecast. It's going to be a little stormy. It's going to be a little cold. Maybe take a look above you. How's the roof? How's your roof holding up? Well, if your roof is leaking, if your roof is aging, if you're a little bit nervous about the upcoming weather, maybe it's time to give DeBella, the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers, a call. Why? Because they can give you a free quote Also, they can help with your windows, your siding, your bath projects, save you up to 30%. 30% on your energy bills. Like I mentioned, it is going to get cold. You're going to want to crank up that furnace. You're going to want to crank up that heat pump. You're going to want to crank up whatever you got. Well, you know what? Imagine if you now had new windows, new siding, kept the heat that you're already paying for inside the house instead of letting it leak out, because that's what DeBellas can do with upgrades to your windows, your siding, and your roofing. They can also renovate bathrooms. 15,000 five-star reviews on Google for their excellent work from their customers. That's not them telling you how great they are. That's their customers telling you how great they are. And the amazing finance opportunity. 0 down, no payments until 2025. You can get a whole year of saving money on your energy bills before you have to make a payment. So visit Dabella, DABELLA.US for your free, no obligation appointment. They can make updating your home so easy. Dabella, the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. right, time to wrap up hour number 1. We'll get back into some football talk in hour number 2. College Football National Championship tonight. It is the end of an era, end of massive amounts of eras. I mean, there will be a Pac-12 logo on the Washington Huskies uniforms as they take the field, and then it's gone for now. How about Wayne Tinkle? Did you see Wayne Tinkle over the weekend?
I did. Should surprise
there's
no
gonna
one.
be some. He thinks like there's gonna be like some separation at some point. Like the Pac-12 basketball teams are gonna come back. I don't know if that's the case.
The way that he made it sound is that some of those teams are already regretting their decision, which we don't want you. Go away.
I don't know if I believe him. Maybe, I mean, who knows? Maybe, I don't know who he's talking to, but like.
Justin, the only two people I
can't imagine there's a lot of men's basketball programs that are kind of regretting. Maybe Cal and Stanford. Maybe Cal and Stanford might be regretting their decision.
I'll say this. The only two teams, Justin, that were happy with realignment were Washington and Oregon. Everyone else was upset with where they had to go.
I think Colorado was pretty happy with going to the Big 12.
But Utah was apathetic, as was
I think
Arizona,
Utah was like, we got to do this.
As was
the Arizona State thing. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think Arizona, because now it's unfortunate because like the Pac-12 as a basketball conference has had the highest of highs, right? The UCLA run. And we've seen the Arizona run, and Pac-12 basketball is a thing. It's the conference of Bill Walton and Lou Alcindor, aka Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Sad that's going away, but people in Arizona, all they care, they only care about basketball, and now they're going to be playing in the Big 12, which is going to be a massive basketball conference now, right? Because Kansas is still there. Oklahoma State's still a pretty big basketball school. Texas Tech has decent I don't know. I'm curious to see how. But I don't know. Maybe in about 2 or 3 years they all come back. They all figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see any reason for him to lie.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I'm not saying he's lying. I shouldn't have said that. I was saying. Some people will tell you, yeah, boy, I'm working over here. It really stinks. And it's like, they don't believe that. Like, they're just kind of telling you what you want to hear. I don't know. Either way, it was interesting. But that's not what we're going to talk about. Right now, it is time for Roundball Rock. It is news and notes around the busy NBA weekend. Interesting NBA weekend. Let's get the Tesh. Do people understand when I say hit me with the Tesh? They know that the great John Tesh wrote this song? I
do. I don't know if the whole listening audience does.
All right. First and foremost, nice win for the Blazers. Needed it. Overtime win against the Nets. Boy, I don't want to continue doing this. And I actually roll my eyes at some people on the X app that do this. But man, if Shaden would have hit that lob where he caught it behind him and turned it into a finger roll, which would have given the Blazers a lead. That would have been a game winner right now. They won in overtime. Couldn't help but think, what a moment. But we give Shaden a lot of credit for making just normal stuff look cool. It's yeah, it was a rebound. He jumped really high for it, but it was a rebound. But nice win for the Blazers. Needed it. When Anthony Simons is cooking, fun to watch. His team when he is cooking. But other things going on in the NBA. It looked like the Lakers for a while were back to their melodrama days. They got a win over the Clippers. LeBron thinks that can be the catalyst. He thinks that's...
Did you hear what else LeBron said?
Was this when he was asked about Ricky Rubio?
No.
And the most hilarious
I did not
Q&A back and forth?
I did not see that, but no, this is when he said Bronny could join and play with them today. And he'd be great. He'd be great.
All right, let me ask you this. Is that just dad delusion? Which, even if you are the second greatest basketball player of all time, in my opinion, you still can have dad delusion, right? There are dads across this great country who believe their kid's going to be like the next Mike Trout, and it's like, that kid can't hit a curveball.
I think we were.
Is there dad delusion, or is this Kardashian stuff?
No, this is
where you just keep pumping it up, so everybody's just going to believe it's true.
It's a little dad delusion, and it's a little like LeVar Ball in the sense that good for LeVar Ball. All three of his sons played somewhat professional basketball. Two of them are,
One was Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, exactly.
They're very good basketball
It
players.
worked out. But you remember when he came on, Justin, he's like, you put Lonzo on the Warriors right now. Steph Curry couldn't handle him. And this was when he was at UCLA.
Yeah.
And it was so viral and all these things, arguing with Stephen A. So I think that there's...
But Lonzo was a good, really good college basketball player.
I think he's better than Bronny right now.
Yeah, so was LaMelo. Now, he didn't play college, but LaMelo's Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, so with all
Bronny's
that...
averaging 7 points a game at USC.
I mean, you're LeBron, so you're never not going to be respected. But, I'm sure your teammates are like, really? Saying your kid's better than your team? Come on, man.
But he's been doing that for 2 years, right?
True.
He got, all wine drunk one night and tweeted out,
You're right.
Bronny's better than half the players. It's I think it's a little dad delusion. I think it's some Kardashian stuff. Go back and look at the Kardashian model, which was Kris Jenner, by any means necessary. Popularity is You keep saying it enough. You see those lines around the arena, and it ain't to watch USC play. It's hey, we're going to go watch, and maybe LeBron will show up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, is that kid built for that kind of pressure? Because you know what's going to come with that kind of pressure? Is a bunch of haters. Just wait until, if that ultimately happens. A lot of haters are going to come.
Yeah,
Don't know if it's the best course of action, but
it's
a different world we live in. We live in a social media attention
so are we
kind of click world.
Are we at the point now, Justin, where, and we'll close the segment out with this, got about 45 seconds left. Do you think this is something where the fact that Bronny's not mocked in any first-round drafts right now, that, LeBron will put pressure on the Lakers to say, you got to get him or I'm out?
Yeah.
Do you think that will really happen?
100%. And I think there are also teams that are if we draft him, maybe LeBron will come here because LeBron's on a one-year deal. That's a whole thing. Because you say what you will about LeBron, and I've said a lot, he comes to your team, you are instantly relevant. Instantly relevant. All right. We got hour number 2 coming up, college football playoff preview. We got Make or Miss. All sorts of fun stuff next, 620 Rip City Radio.
what you need to know. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Portland Trail Blazers snapped a 3-game skid with a 134-127 victory over the Brooklyn Nets in overtime. Anthony Simons led the way for the Blazers with 38 points. Big overtime performance from Malcolm Brogdon paved the way for the Blazers to get the victory. The NFL playoff picture is set. The Browns will be facing the Texans, Dolphins, and Chiefs. Steelers going on the road to take on the Buffalo Bills, Packers, Cowboys, Rams, Lions, Eagles, Bucks. That is a super wild card weekend that is set. And the national championship of college football will be played tonight in Houston as the Washington Huskies look to win their first national championship since the split national championship of 1991. Michigan also looking to win their first outright national championship since the split national championship of 1997. Cam Mellor of the College Football Network is going to be joining us in hour number 3, but hour 2 starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, 20 minutes from now, we have got Make or Miss. I'll be honest, don't know what we're going to do 40 minutes from now. Who won the weekend? Gone. Done. We tried it. Maybe tried it a little too much. Never really quite caught on. So we're moving forward. Exciting for some new things that are going to be popping up throughout this week and this month. Also, the clock is ticking, for those that don't know. Whether he likes it or not, I put a January 14th deadline on super producer Brendan because you told me, you said, not a New Year's resolution, but you said, I'm going to make a New Year's definitive decision. I'm going to make a New Year's commitment with regard to your gym membership. You're either all in or you are all out. And I thought, you know what better day than the day where college football players have to declare for the draft? All in or all out, like they've got to on January 14th. How do we do over the weekend?
We still haven't gone. Why would we?
No.
Why would we?
I don't know. Maybe I thought maybe you got like every once in a while you get like they call it a wild hair, It's like,
yeah, I mean,
let's give it a shot.
It's
no judgment. You do whatever you want to do with your weekend as far as I'm concerned. I'm just curious.
No, it just hasn't, like, again, watch TV or go to the gym. So
how's Game of Thrones going, by the way?
Yeah.
I tried to tell you about it.
Very good.
Tried to tell you.
Well, I didn't have Max for the longest time.
Yeah, and it's weird because I think you and I are on the same page. We're not fantasy guys. You're a fantasy football guy, but not like sci-fi fantasy guys, right? Don't watch like the Battlestar Galactica and so you see like, Game of Thrones, it's in like Middle Earth and all that. It's like, yeah, but it turns out it's awesome. It was awesome.
I finished season 3 over the weekend. So, seen some pretty, some crazy stuff, man. And I'm so far behind on this. I'm guaranteed that, Justin, there are people listening to us right now being like, hey, Brendan, that show ended like 6 years ago. I know. So I hear you, folks.
But you probably thought that about people who were like, dude, I finally got into Breaking Bad. And you were like, where the hell have you been?
It's true.
That's how I feel about Yellowstone, right? When people start talking about Yellowstone. By the way, shout out to the hoodie you're rocking today.
Right?
Is that Christmas gift?
I was hoping you were going to notice. It's
Christmas gift?
Yeah, we can go ahead and slide the camera so our YouTube audience can check it out this morning, too, doing some Dutton
Ranch gear.
Branding.
Did you get a brand?
Yeah, no. Did not get a brand. No, but definitely a good Christmas present from the family, Justin. They knew what I wanted.
I started rewatching again because, like, at some point we're going to get the final season, and I'm not holding out hope that it's all that good. But I just like to go back and just go like, man, let's rewatch.
How good were those first couple seasons? Whew.
You know what I forgot? Spoiler alert, but I don't care. It's been a while. It's been a while. I forgot how many people Casey killed.
Oh, I know.
3 episodes in, body counts at 4. It's like, dude, he got 4 notches on his belt by episode 3. It's just like, maybe.
It's basically Black Ops. I mean.
Yeah, but it's always like, hey, I'm driving down the road on the res, and it's like, There's a meth lab. Maybe just keep driving.
Yeah,
I
just
don't know.
keep going.
Maybe just, not in his DNA. Like, hey, there's a van parked there. Oddly, it's like, well, I better check it out. It's like, no, you can just
it
drive.
could be someone else's problem, you know. But yeah, those first couple seasons are
Body counts at 4.
They're great. They're great. But yeah, no, honestly, Justin, I've just seen so many.
So now you're into so now you got the Game of Thrones going.
Yeah, I'm trying to get through it very quickly because I keep hearing. Because essentially, my goal is to finish it before season 2 of House of Dragon comes out, and then I can get into House of Dragon because I'm sitting here looking at the early seasons of Game of Thrones, going, yeah, I kind of want some more dragons. So
No, you just
yeah.
Either way, I shall say nothing. I shall give nothing away. I will say that there was a time when I lived in another city, and then and I was hosting a radio show, and they said, "Yeah, we're going to pay you 3 months to not host a radio show, and then we're not going to pay you anymore." And I'm like, "Okay." So I had a summer adjusting, where it's like,
summer adjust.
It's like, "Hey, June," you're like, "I know, you know how you come in every day? Yeah, just don't come in tomorrow. We're going to keep paying you for a couple of months, but like, just your key card, you have it. Can I just get that from you real quick?" So let's just say I had a summer and I had to put rules on myself because I'm like, fine, I'm watching Game of Thrones, and like, I'm like,
I get it.
No more than 2. After 2, it's like I got to go for a walk. I gotta do something. I gotta do something productive because I would just sit there and I would binge so hardcore.
But no, I mean, back to your original thought and point. Again, we still have some time.
We got time for the gym thing.
I haven't quite.
We have any plans this week?
It literally, Justin, comes down because like here.
Could we maybe for the if we get to January 14th, and I don't want to pressure you. I don't want to pressure you, and I have learned over the years. I can only push Brendan so far until he decides I push back. I can nudge in a direction. I can give advice, but the moment I start pushing, Brendan pushes back, and he says, "Fine, I'm not going to do it." And that's cool. That's who you are. That's how you're wired. That's why the show works. At least I believe it works. So I'm not going to push you, but if in fact we get to January 14th, and it's just like I'm out. I did not get that motivation. I did not wake up with that sparkle in my eye going, I really want to get on a treadmill today. And if that didn't, can we maybe, for the show's sake, maybe just try some new stuff? We'll just try. Maybe Brendan tries pickleball. Or maybe, maybe we'll just find something. I don't know. Just a thought for the show.
No, this is again, Justin. These are all great questions.
Get you out in the community and
I'm happy to do those things when it's summer and I can go floating outside.
Let's do inside though. We'll do maybe some inside stuff.
So right there is where you've kind of arrived at my.
Maybe we'll find you a dodgeball league or something.
Yeah, no, I'm like you've arrived at like what. The only thing I like to do when it's Oregon outside for 8 months is watch TV.
I know. We got to find a balance.
I'm just being honest.
I don't want to take away your TV watching. Lord knows I watch plenty of TV.
So
let's maybe find you a balance.
We could. But no, to be perfectly honest with you, Justin, even in the last 3 days, every time I'd go, okay, I have a minute to do something. There's some breaking Beaver transfer portal. What's going on with the transfer portal? It hasn't slowed down.
Because let me tell you, I don't know the inner workings of it. I have some thoughts, but other than dudes who are going top 2 rounds in the NFL, anybody at Oregon football that's got eligibility is coming back, and I'm like. Phil is like, all right, what do you need? 125? Got it. Okay. You Terrence Ferguson, what got it. Top edge rusher coming. How much? 250? We can get that. The Division Street LLC or whatever it is, the collective that Oregon's got, that marketing, it's humming. Because no kid, other than obviously, look, Bo Nix he's played enough college football. And Troy Franklin's going to be probably a first-round pick, if bare minimum second-round pick. That guy's going to be a legit NFL wide receiver. Anybody else that has eligibility that was borderline that before NIL, they're all coming back. And I'm just And it's fun to watch the Oregon fans on Twitter because, again, I would love to believe it would be for, like, the love of Eugene and the love of play. It's like, I think they're all making deals. I think they're all making real, like, I think Phil Knight and that Division Street crew is like, all right, Washington's the national title game. We can't be walking into the Big Ten in a rebuild. Pay them. Let's go. Whatever it takes, we got to pay them.
It's true.
And they're paying.
It's true.
So much they're paying 2 quarterbacks. They're paying Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore.
It's true. The Oregon, to say that Oregon and Oregon State's competition will be different next year is the biggest understatement of the year outside of having to play each other. But just the hippity-hop nature of the portal, Justin, it finally, it's fascinating to see it come full circle. So over the weekend, Oregon State got a running back commitment who was their running back in 2022, but then he left to go to Ole Miss for a year.
Yeah.
Didn't like Ole Miss, came back to Oregon State. So now we've seen this, like, hippity-hop, where I've never seen somebody leave a place and come back to a place. Now I've seen that.
Yeah, I saw, like, Dan Lanning talked about it a lot a couple of years ago, like the importance in finishing second in recruiting. Now, this is a little bit different. He was actually there. But it's like, if you go, like Dante Moore, Oregon was there, Bo Nix came back, Dante Moore went to UCLA, and it was like, nope, probably wished I would have gone to Oregon. Guess what? You can do that now. Like, there's probably a lot of guys who go and they're like, all right, I went on a recruiting trip. They promised me a bag. I met a girl. She turned out, like,
yeah, like it's always a girl.
17. All right.
How much is it a girl in these?
When I was 17, it was all I cared about.
You exactly.
That was it. It was all I cared about. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's 17.
Oh,
or,
for
like,
sure.
you caught it on, like, a good day or, like, a coach. Or maybe you made a connection to, like, a running backs coach, and then he leaves, and you're just like, oh, I wish I would have gone here. Well, guess what? Now you can. Because the transfer portal has done that, and I think there are going to be some guys who transfer out, regret it, and want to come back. They're like, no, grass was not greener, and it's like, come on back.
Yeah, it's the
new world order of college football now. And another thing, I think this was a very smart move. I don't know if you saw the news that Malachi Nelson's going to Boise State. So Malachi Nelson was, I think, depending on some recruiting sites, the number 2 quarterback behind Arch Manning. Now, some had Dante Moore there. Some had him there. But he was on his way to USC, and usually the rankings get a little stagnant once you, like, solidly commit to one place. Like, that's your star ranking. But he was top 3. Went to USC, clearly sat behind Caleb Williams, knew that, and then he transferred. So you figure, well, he's transferring to Boise State, and I saw some people going like, why would you, if you were a 5-star guy why would you go to Boise? And I'm like, this guy's playing chess, not checkers. Because imagine this, Malachi Nelson goes to Boise and puts up crazy big numbers in the Mountain West. He can punch his ticket anywhere in the country next year.
Right. He could.
He could be like, Ohio State needs a guy. Michigan needs a guy. Alabama needs a guy. It's like, Mountain West. Like, you're the G League now.
Yeah, this is not Boise. This is not about Boise State, and we'll talk about it a little bit.
But Boise can use it.
Yeah, sure. But, like, take a step back. Like, we look at, like, there were people last year who are like, why would DJU choose Oregon State? Well, because they had a great offensive line, Jonathan Smith, reasons. None of those reasons exist at Boise State. You're talking about a guy who's been a head coach for 3 games.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Like, this is what Justin said. This is, it's Boise. It's probably quiet. I could just go cook. And
yeah, he probably can, though.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Those guys, they're going to be thrilled to have me. Like, and
they're going to run the offense around him.
But 1 year, I guarantee.
Yeah, he takes 1 year.
I would
throws up some crazy numbers, gets about 50-some touchdowns or whatever, and is like, all right. Who wants me?
I would be.
Where's my bag?
I would make a friendly $5 bet with you, Justin, that he is a 1-year rental at Boise, no more, no less.
It's how you work the system now.
It is,
and that's what the system has become. Don't know if I like it, but that's what it is. That's the reality. Is that and if you're Boise, you're never going to get a top 3 quarterback in the country ever on your campus.
It's a lot like Oregon State in that
Nobody's
regard.
ever no 5-star guys coming on the blue turf But now you got a chance, and you get 1 year out of it. Maybe you make a run of the college football playoff next year with the 12 teams if you're Boise. With that kind of talent, why couldn't you? You make a couple of $1 million in revenue. You use him, he uses you. Thanks for the memories, Broncos.
Honestly,
I shall be off to Washington or UCLA or Texas or whoever needs a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at the example close to home, folks. Will he be this year's DJU, right? DJU came, improved his stock, and would Florida State have wanted him a year ago?
Not after his last season at Clemson.
Right. No. So, again, it stinks for Oregon State to kind of get stepped on and stepped over in that regard, especially when you lose all your quarterbacks. Thanks, Johnny the Snake. But that's something else for a different day.
But kept you in the top 10 till the last week of the year.
So, I think I'm totally with you. I think he's a rental. It'll work out great for both teams. Justin, the Beavers and the Cougars have to play Boise State next year. So, oops.
There you go. All right. I think Oregon doesn't. I think they've got out of that one thanks to they playing.
Good for you guys.
Well, I think Oregon's playing Civil War instead of Boise. So there you go. All right. We have got Make or Miss. That's coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio. from here on out. It's the end of the Pac-12. It's the end of the 4-team college football playoff era. There's a lot of change. A lot of change on the horizon. It all ends. It all ends tonight. Now, will the new version, will college football 2, that's probably about 3.0, wouldn't you say? Maybe 4.0 at this point in time.
Considering the BCS was like 1.0, I think we're probably 4.0 now.
So let's go. Bowls are probably OG, and then like the BCS era, and then the playoff era, and it's like we're heading into college football 4.0.
Oh yeah, and then what do you call the crummy way it used to be, where like any poll could declare a national champion? That was probably the worst.
Okay, let me ask you a question. And I don't want to
the Harris poll.
I don't want. The Harris poll was a good poll.
Or the one that declared.
Harris poll, I don't think ever declared a national champion, but there was the UPI.
Okay, I was thinking of one of them. Like like the one that declared UCF the national champion with Scott Frost when they went undefeated.
I think that was like the Penny Saver Gazette or something. It wasn't even just back in the day. It wasn't even just polls, Brendan. It was a newspaper. Like Sports Illustrated would declare a national champion, and USA Today, even though they had the coaches poll, right? They would declare a national champion, and
the Collie Matrix called them the national champion in 2017.
This is all you need is some publication to declare you a national champion, because there's no there will be now with the 12-team playoff. There'll be it's college football Super Bowl and everything else, but you kind of talked about the way it was. I heard Jimbo Fisher was talking about this on a podcast. Was the 4-team playoff better? Was it better? From what we have seen now we have a sample size of about 9 seasons of the college football playoff versus what it was. I think at the beginning it had really good intentions. I think by the end it once again became problematic because there's too many teams in college football. The NFL's easy. There will be no doubt that there's nobody sorry, Seahawks, nobody's going like, boy, they should have made the playoffs. Like, no. We know that because they played the Steelers. They played the Rams. They played the 49ers, and we saw what happened. Whereas, Oregon's lost to Washington. That's it. Georgia lost to Alabama. That's it. That's the only team they lost to. We don't know because there's so many teams and so few games. But I will say the one thing the college football playoff did up until this year, there was never, by the end of it, did we get it right? Do you know what I mean? There was never a national champion who lifted up the trophy and was and somebody went nah, I don't know about that. Whereas before that, there were plenty of times where you could be like, yeah, Nick Saban, you won it with LSU, but USC was pretty good that year.
Right.
I think USC might have had them that year. Auburn was undefeated in 2004 when USC won it, and they didn't get a chance. Now,
I'll say this, nobody was beating Joe Burrow and LSU that year. Nobody.
Yeah, but then we have a college football playoff.
Right.
And in the playoff era, I don't think, even when Ohio State as a 4 seed won the first one, nobody was like, yeah, but... because they beat Alabama and they beat Oregon. And so I do think it worked from that point, but I think it lost its way somewhere. And, let's just be honest. As we look back, the idea that there were 5 power conferences and there were 4 spots in the playoff was kind of dumb. Right? That was just kind of dumb. But anyways, we'll wrap it up tonight. We'll talk to Cam Mellor coming up in hour number 3. But right now, let's dive into Make or Miss. Here we go.
It bounces off the crossbar.
I think that.
The exercise ball, but it had a handle, and you could bink, bink.
Yeah, we had one of those too. I remember. I think if memory serves, I think we had one for a long time growing up, and then suddenly Mom said there's a hole in it.
Yeah, it's gone. Now, do we know how the hole got there? We don't know.
No.
Mysteriously. Oh, weird. Darn it.
Kind of like your goldfish went to the goldfish heaven. You didn't see it go away, but it's gone.
It's gone. Well, I don't know if anything nefarious was happening with the goldfish. I think goldfish turned upside down.
Unfortunately,
Sometimes with like a hippity hop or like a toy that makes noise, it mysteriously breaks. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
think.
oh yeah, they know that thing that made all that noise. Yep, it broke. Sorry.
So
Weird how that worked out.
When I was in elementary school, Justin, there was like this like fair that the school would put on at the end of each year, where you'd go and there'd be activities and games and just kind of a way to kind of be done with the year of elementary school. Remember, for 2 straight years, if you it was almost like kid pong. You'd be throwing it, but like for kids, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll say kid pong. I'm not gonna say beer pong, but kid pong.
Yeah, so it's cups with a ping pong ball and
yes,
throw it
but
in.
you don't chug it.
Nobody's chugging beers.
But all
What's
that
going on in
all that aside,
Sherwood?
Justin, I remember they would love to send you home a goldfish in a bag.
That's how I got my
And-
goldfish. The Lane County Fair. I got
Yep.
my goldfish at the Lane County Fair. Only it was like fish bowls.
Right.
And that's how. And then you threw the ping pong ball in the fish bowl, and if you
Now-
got one in there, you got a free goldfish.
Now, I don't want to throw shade at my folks, but there may have been at least one time, Justin, where me and my sister, who were very close in age and both went to the fair together and both brought home fishes.
Showed up each with a fish.
Yeah, fish.
Multiple fish. Yeah.
I think that assuming the competitor that he is, that thought never entered his mind.
No, and that's why, again,
Being the number one team in the AFC will wipe away all the awkward.
turns out he's just really good at football.
Yeah.
And all play the game and make a lot of money.
If I recall, he reclassified late, got in there, would have been able to play with Kentucky, but Cal was like, "Nah, we're going to shut him down for the year." And then clearly someone snuck into a gym, saw him working out. It's like, Cal, it doesn't matter. We're going to draft him 6th anyway. Like, you know what I mean? And that goes with Shaden. Like, to your point, do you think he can be truly great considering that he made that business decision at 18 years old?
I hope I'm wrong. It's a question that I've had since the Blazers drafted him. Is like, how do you go that long without playing basketball? But then, here's the other thing. Anthony Simons reclassified, right? He was supposed to go to Louisville, reclassified, played at IMG Academy. He dropped in, 38 last night?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think Anthony Simons is going to be great.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's with the Blazers.
Yeah, see, but that wasn't about, just the timeline of their different ages, right?
And that was the thing. Like, he was supposed to go to Louisville.
Rick Pitino.
Rick Pitino got fired.
Yeah, fired. He's coaching again, so no big deal, but...
hey, if you can win...
I
a lot
guess.
of stuff's forgiven.
He's got what? 2?
And we're not going to talk about what Rick Pitino did.
Nope.
You can Google it if you'd like. Wouldn't do it at work.
Hey, again, Justin, does that go back to your point you made earlier about recruiting visits and having girls on recruiting visits?
We're not going to talk about it.
Okay.
Don't condone it. Just saying.
But there could have been something there.
If you want to Google it, go right ahead. Go Google.
All that to say is, I think it's fascinating because Washington State needs a quarterback next year. As of this moment, even for what we say about the Cougs could step all over Boise State with NIL money if they wanted to. Oregon State could step all over Boise State with NIL money if they wanted to. So the fact that the Cougs don't even have a quarterback for this next year with experience, maybe it's Ty Thompson, we don't know.
No, he's going to Tulane.
Okay.
He's off to...
Okay, I missed that over the weekend. So all that to say, I think probably, he entered the portal a little late. I think that might have hurt him. But nevertheless, I just find it very interesting that that's where he went. Maybe if they had, Brian Harsin or had a success, he's going there because I think you said it's going down to JUCO. I really think
that's what it is. And he's like, I'm going to go to the Mountain West. And maybe it works. And maybe it's a blueprint. Maybe it's something because we haven't really seen that.
I mean, he'll get to play against. Let's look real quick. I know for sure.
He gets Oregon State against Washington State.
So that's 2 games.
They don't get Oregon. That game's been moved.
It will be moved
to 2030, I think.
Yeah. So those are Justin. He will get his opportunity to show what he can do against the Beavers and the Cougars.
If it works, good for him. It's a gamble, though. It is. Power 4 to group of 5 bounce back type players. I don't know if they're not all going to get re-recruited. You know what I mean?
And I think it also, Justin, depends on why.
But he can also work the system and by next year say, hey, I am the best quarterback free agent out there.
Right.
Who wants me?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, too, because I think you're going to, like, the last chance you thing, I think the reason, the why is important as we close up this segment is, like, was it for discipline? Was it for grades? Like, again, the thing people don't talk about, Justin, it is a miracle Tyreek Hill is in the NFL. Go back and look at his collegiate career when he had some real issues. Again, nothing that I'm going to bring up, just things we've all forgotten when he's been the number 1 receiver in the NFL these last few years. But Tyreek Hill had a tumultuous college experience. So it can happen. It does happen. But yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see, like you said, this jump and see if guys can make these business decisions and will they pay off for them in the long run.
All right, before we get into that, I want to tell you about the good folks and good people. Not people, but folks and people at DeBella. The official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers, been talking about it a ton because, look, the winter weather is brutal. Take a look at the forecast. You see what's coming up this weekend? How's your roof doing? Is it leaking? Is it aging? Have you been maybe putting it off? Well, it's time to get a free quote from my friends at DeBella. They can help with windows, siding, bath projects. You take care of your windows, your siding, your roofing, and save up to 30% on your energy bills. You're going to be cranking up the heat this week, especially this weekend. Keep that heat inside the house and save up to 30%. And now is the perfect time to connect with them because 0 down, no payments till 2025. Yeah, you heard me right. 0 down, no payments till 2025 on approved credit. You're just sitting there saving all that energy bills. And you don't have to make a payment until 2025. But you got to visit DeBella, DABELLA.US for a free, no obligation appointment. And they can make updating your home so easy. DeBella, the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. All right, time to wrap up hour number 2. In hour number 3, we're going to talk some more college football. We're on the precipice of the national championship game, and as I mentioned at the very top of the show, which I'm sure all of you have been listening to the entire show, thank you, appreciate you. It's a bittersweet day for me. I love college football, but it's over. We'll still find ways to talk about college football, obviously with the constant change that's going on in the sport. We'll find conversations, but it's the last hurrah tonight. Plus, obviously, if you are like me, an Oregon fan, it's an emotional day. It really is. Because, yeah, I don't engage in fan trash talk on the internet. I have been, a lot of people do the dry January. I've done the opposite of that.
Yeah, no.
I'm having a great time, loving January, staying healthy as always. Don't need to do any of those resolutions, but I mentioned it. You were battling COVID.
I was.
You were battling COVID on New Year's Eve, but
it dampened my Christmas present from you, Justin.
Yeah.
I haven't now that we're clear. We can finish off the Christmas present.
So yeah, I gave you a little extra holiday cheer there. But you were battling COVID, and I'm going to be positive only. But I do like good banter between fan bases, and I have not only my wife, but I have a lot of friends who are Husky fans because obviously I spend a good chunk of my time up there, and I have a lot of friends and group chats and everything else. And there are always some old standbys. Brennan, you know this because I'm sure as an Oregon State faithful, you might have, maybe you or people you know would love to throw out to Oregon the 5,482 uniform combinations, no national titles, right? Love throwing that one out there, right? That's an oldie but a goodie. It's been going on since like 1999 when
the actual term was coined by a Beaver fan. 2010, I think. No natty. I think that's
that guy. Where's that guy? Where's the
Where's no
deep
natty guy?
internet cut right there?
It was
Where
no
is
natty.
It was so bad. The other Beaver fans were like, "Will you shut up?"
Oh, I know. It's cringe.
Will you
It's
just
still
stop?
cringe.
No natty.
But Beaver fans love to talk about
It's like,
that
dude,
guy.
where's the no natty guy?
I hope he's still around.
By the way, real fun piece of history. I don't know if you know this. The term natty, coined by Oregon defensive back Cliff Harris, in a post. So it was a post game. Oregon had just beaten Arizona, and they were then going to go play Civil War in Corvallis in 2010, and Oregon beat Arizona, and that clinched the conference, which was still a very big deal back then. If I'm not mistaken, looking back, Oregon won the conference in 94, 2000, even though it was split, and 2001, and then it won the conference in 2009. That's it. They'd won 4 times in like 50-some years that Oregon had won the conference. And so they're undefeated. They were 11-0. They just beat Arizona at home on senior day, and they are Pac-12 champions, or Pac-10 champions, excuse me. Still the Pac-10 back then. It was 2010. They're Pac-10 champions. And a group of reporters happen to know a good chunk of them, one of which, good friend of mine, asked the question, does the conference championship resonate? I'm paraphrasing because I wasn't there. And it was essentially, yeah, that's cool and all, but we about the natty right now, is what Cliff Harris said. Before November of 2010, nobody had ever said natty in terms of national championship, at least on the record. And that got written in an article, that got printed in a blog. Then, because this reporter is a super good friend, may have walked back up into the press box where a certain couple of goofballs were doing a post-game show and said, hey, you're going to want this quote. And so we reported on the post, and from that moment on, the natty became a thing. Tip of the cap, Cliff Harris, which troublesome end of his football career, troublesome end in ran into some legal issues. Feel bad. He was a dude though. 2010, they don't beat Cal without him. And Yeah, coined the phrase, the natty. But anyways, back to what I was talking about. Like, there is always like fun, playful banter, right? Washington always comes back with their 0 national championships. That's what the O stands for. It's a 0. And so Oregon fans will go back and be like, hey, how's your Heisman Trophy winner? Oh, that's right, you don't have one. Half of a national championship because in 91, Miami with Gino Toretto, who won the Heisman that year.
Even the Beavers have a Heisman Huskies.
Boom. And then for some unreal reason, Washington decided to throw 2016 college football playoff participant. Now, in basketball, that's commonplace, right? But it says it's Final Four. You know what I mean? Does Oregon State have their Elite Eight banner up there from a couple years ago?
Yeah. I mean,
you make
really,
the Sweet 16, you make the Elite Eight, you make the Final Four, right? A banner goes up at the gym. It's a very big deal. Not a lot of teams would put participant up there because of what the meaning of a participation trophy is in our world. And so Oregon loves to throw the 2016 participation trophy. Well, if Washington wins an outright, undisputed, no doubt about it, beat Texas and Michigan, two of the biggest names, two of the biggest brands in college football history in a year that they beat Oregon twice. So it was like, hey, you beat us, but prove it. Did it. Proved. Beat you twice. Brenda, we have nothing to talk to them about. There's no coming back from this. Do you see what's at stake here? There's no coming back from this until you win your own. And now you got to win into a 12-team playoff where you're playing in the Big Ten, and the deep pockets of the Division Street / swoosh fund is nice, but it's going to get real hard. It's going to get even more difficult. This is what's at stake.
Yeah.
This is the emotional turmoil I'm dealing with.
Yeah, see, it continues to fascinate me from afar that a team that like Oregon State fans do not have a rivalry with is driving you up a wall this much. Like, I would feel the way you're feeling if Oregon was playing for the national championship. Maybe.
Well, you did. Like, what were you in, like, 2014?
So 2010.
Were you, like, 2014, were you a big Ohio State fan?
No. So I got to college, so it started to change. So 2010, you could have, I mean, I was rooting for Cam. I was all about Cam, man. And when they kicked that field goal, oh, thank goodness Michael Dyer was not down. But no, 4 years later, it was like I liked Mariota. Like,
yeah.
There weren't a ton of dudes on that Oregon 2010 team that I can say, Justin. I was like, it wasn't like a tip of the cap respect. It was more like they're so good and I can't stand them. 4 years later, I liked Helfrich. I liked Mariota. Yeah. I liked
and this is what I'm dealing with because you can't not like Michael Penix.
Right.
You can't not like him.
Well, and again, I speaking from my perspective, how can you not like Kalen DeBoer? Where he came from.
I know.
Where he came from.
I know. It's hard. This is a lot. It's an emotional roller coaster. We got a whole third hour of the program next. 620 Rip City Radio.
what you need to know. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Blazers get the win last night. They snap a 3-game losing streak with a 134-127 victory over the Brooklyn Nets in overtime. 38 points for Anthony Simons to lead the Blazers. Also, Malcolm Brogdon with an impressive overtime period. So the Blazers get the victory in Brooklyn. NFL playoff picture for the Super Wildcard weekend is set. Cleveland Browns will be facing off against the Houston Texans, Dolphins, and the Chiefs. That's going to be on Saturday night. Steelers taking on the Bills in Buffalo. Pack a coat. Packers, Cowboys, Rams, Lion. Matthew Stafford goes back to Detroit, and the Eagles limp into the playoffs, and they'll be facing off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The national championship game is set tonight, 4:30, as Washington and Michigan squaring off for the national championship. We're going to talk to Cam Mellor from the College Football Network coming up in 20 minutes. We've got an RCM mailbag and interesting ending for the Seattle Seahawks yesterday. Hour 3 of RCM starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's time for Justin Myers to wake you up here on Rip City Mornings, 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, so like a handful of other teams, the Seattle Seahawks season ended yesterday. Now, it ended on a victory. They needed help, didn't get it. Because of the loss last week to the Steelers, where they controlled their own destiny, all they had to do to make the playoffs was to beat Mason Rudolph, third-string quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, at home, and then go on the road and beat the Arizona Cardinals, who I think will be picking third or fourth this upcoming year. Well, they lost to the Steelers, and they got a win. They ended the season on a victory. 2 minutes to go. Scoreboard pops up. Hey, they were down 7, 2 minutes to go. Scoreboard pops up. Green Bay's just beaten Chicago. Season's over. No matter what happens in the next 2 minutes, season's over. So let's do a little the good, the bad, and the ugly with the Seattle Seahawks in their day yesterday. Here's the good. 2 minutes to go. Could have just taken the air out of the ball, taken the L. I don't know how many draft picks you would have moved up or down on, but regardless, they go all the way down. They score the touchdown, knowing that the season is over. Go for 2, get it. Arizona misses its second field goal, and they walk off the field with the win. To Seattle's credit, to Pete Carroll's credit, to the roster's credit, could have just folded up like an accordion in that last 2 minutes. Instead, they marched down, got the win, looked fairly competitive. So that's the good. We're going to get into the bad. Let's get to the ugly. Did you see the pictures of the players after the game smoking cigars? Now, there was a bit of a miscommunication because anytime you see at the end of the season players smoking a cigar, you rightly assume victory cigar, right? That's what you would assume. It's in a locker room. And so a couple of reporters came in and said, the Seahawks, one of which is our good friend Brady Henderson. Brady Henderson was there. He's at the game. He goes in, he's like, there's some Seahawks smoking cigars in the locker room. And somebody might have even said smoking victory cigars seems like an interesting move, considering you just missed the playoffs. Sure, you won the game, but you missed the playoffs. And because the Twitter app is what the Twitter app is, a lot of old veteran Seahawks, a lot of ex-Seahawks guys that went to Super Bowls and tried to change the culture were very hot. And even when, like, John Ryan, who's a great dude, punter, was like, boy, the culture has changed. And so there was a lot of hot takes real fast. Then, as it turns out, those cigars were actually for one of the players' newborn son. And he said, we were waiting for the end of the game and with a win so I could share the cigars with my teammates because I just had my first child. So, And then it goes back to time and place. Is that the proper time to be smoking cigars in the locker room? Maybe wait. I don't know. But either way, it was an ugly scene of like old school, which is funny that 2013 is now old school Seahawks. But the world's moving faster. So now let's get to the bad. This is the bad part with the Seahawks. Your team is good, not great. Are you fully committed to your quarterback as a fan? Probably not. Are you fully committed to your place in the division, considering that the Rams and the 49ers both made the postseason? And we'll see what happens with Arizona, but Kyler Murray nearly beat you in week 18. How committed are you to Pete Carroll as a head coach? Because after the game, when asked, do you expect to be here next year, Pete Carroll says, I do. Real fast. Yeah, of course, I do. And then after some hemming and hawing, said, I mean, obviously depending on the circumstances, but I do. And now the Seahawks are in that unfortunate spot. Because I've talked about this a ton. In the NFL, it's coach-quarterback league. It's great to have weapons like Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson was very upset yesterday, by the way. But it's great to have weapons like those guys. But as we learned with Justin Jefferson, as we have learned with Jamar Chase, as we learned with a handful, you don't have the quarterback that can get them the ball. It doesn't really matter, does it? So everybody in the league is searching for a coach and a quarterback. Talked about the Texans earlier. The Texans went from the laughingstock of the NFL. Remember last year? Lovie Smith, what a joke. Why is he trying to win? What is going on? What, is he trying to give a favor to the Bears? What is he doing? Well, they got the right coach. They got the right quarterback. They won the division. They're in the postseason. Coach and quarterback. That's what everybody's looking for. So either you got your coach and quarterback, or you are one of the teams like the Commanders, like the Falcons, like the Raiders. Your team is looking for them. Right? Those are teams. Maybe the Bears. Who knows? How committed are you to Eberflus? How committed are you to Justin Fields? Who knows? But maybe the Bears. But there's a handful of teams out there going to the draft going, we're going to get a new coach, and we need a quarterback. So you either got your coach and quarterback, or you're looking for it, or there's the worst spot to be in, which is where the Seahawks are. Right smack dab in the middle. Now, I think Pete Carroll is a Hall of Fame coach. I know he's only got one NFL Super Bowl, and I don't know if one Lombardi gets
he could have had two.
And it's his fault that they don't, and amongst some other things, but it's on him.
I mean, it was right there.
He made the call. But, I don't know if one Lombardi gets you in the Hall of Fame. Who knows? I don't know what the criteria is anymore, but regardless, he's the greatest coach in Seattle sports history.
Does he deserve to be put in, I'm not a Pete Carroll apologist or a Pete Carroll superfan, but I respect, the fact of the matter is, Justin, for how few coaches have won national championships at both levels.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't work.
I don't think that matters in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Sure.
They're very, but like
Jimmy Johnson and him, that's like it, right?
But Jimmy Johnson won 2, correct?
Right. Yes, he did win 2.
He won 2
with the Cowboys in the 90s.
Yeah.
So
it's Jimmy Johnson, it's him. Is there another one in there? I don't think so. But he may be a Hall of Fame coach. He may be, either way, he's very, very, very good head coach. His legacy in Seattle is cemented forever because he brought the Lombardi. He brought it. That flag will fly forever. But if you're a Seahawks fan, how confident are you in Pete Carroll turning this team back into a championship contender in the next 3, 4, 5 years? So,
would it give you pause that Pete Carroll is still the oldest coach in the NFL? I'm not trying to be ageist, but I think you still have to ask the question, do you see any signs of Pete Carroll slowing down? Because if
No.
not, then I say you ride with him.
That doesn't. But again, it's not to be ageist, but like I just think there are certain times where even Bill Belichick, it's like, all right, it's not working anymore, right? The days of coaching forever are just kind of gone, and I'm not going to say like the game's passed him by, but it's sometimes you need new voice, new eyeballs, fresh start, who knows? But I don't think Seahawk fans are of the opinion that Pete Carroll needs to be fired. But if I were to get a majority of Seahawk fans, if I were to get a majority of Seahawk players, truth serum, sodium pentothal, throw it in their Starbucks coffee, how confident are you that Pete Carroll can get you back to the promised land? Because that's the only reason we're here. It's the only reason we're here. Obviously, the NFL is a money-making venture. Everybody's making money. The only reason we're here is to try to get back to the big one. Get to the playoffs, get to a AFC, NFC championship game, and get to the Super Bowl. How confident are you? How confident are you with Geno Smith and Pete Carroll combo?
I'm not confident in that combo of winning a Super Bowl. That combo has shown they can have a good year. They can be a playoff mix.
Yeah.
But even last year, this year, Seahawks were never the Super Bowl contenders. Now, I'll say this. Since getting rid of Russ, John Schneider and Pete Carroll, GM coach combo that I do believe in 100%, those two went back to the drawing board and started building that defense the way they built it the first time. You've got your Witherspoon, you've got your, all the guys that have started to kind of come together on the defensive side. Even Bobby Wagner said he's come back next year.
Yeah.
So that culture still seems pretty tight.
Hasn't he started like 100 like
Dude, he's been around for so long.
His record starts is like insane.
Oh yeah. No, he's a dude. But no, like
But is it as simple as like
the thing that
find
scares
a new quarterback?
Well, the thing that scares me about this whole plan, Justin, is what you told me on Friday, because my brother is a big-time Seahawk fan, and yesterday he was like, yay, we're going to go get Penix or Bo Nix. And I said, well, Braden, I learned something this week. Seahawks haven't drafted a quarterback in the first round since like forever.
The Rick Meyer, 1992.
Yeah, since like forever. And not to say that they won't, but that would be going against the grain for them. So if they do, maybe we got something there. But Justin, if they don't take a quarterback in the first round, how confident are you that they're going to find another Russ in the second or third?
Well, they don't have a second-round pick, remember?
Sorry?
They don't have a second-round pick.
That's right.
Thanks, Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
So they don't have a
they're in
second-round
a tough
pick.
spot. And,
So you got to find a third-rounder, or you got to find like a Gardner Minshew, right? Or a Jake Browning, guys with Washington ties. I know that doesn't really matter, but you know what I mean? Like, so there are a couple of guys that have kind of played themselves into, and I brought up the crazy idea last week. What if you give old Russ a call? What if you get the band back together? Russ is going to get released. See, now here's the thing, though. I don't think Russ is going to get released until March, right? And the Seahawks have to make a definitive stance, like you in the gym, I think 5 days after the Super Bowl, because if they wait and they don't release Geno Smith, he becomes vested and you pay him all his money, or a good chunk of it. Whereas if you decide to move on after the Super Bowl from Geno Smith, you can affordably make a change at quarterback. Do you wait out Russ? Is it still too soon? Do you go into...
I know you've thrown that out there. You still got to tell me what, like, I'll ask my Seahawk people on my periphery. You ask your Seahawk wife if she would want Russell Wilson back. I think I know what the answer is. I think most Seahawk fans would be like, thanks, man. We've seen what you've been the last 2 years.
But you see what the Seahawks are without him?
Right.
Right. They did make the playoffs, needed that miracle from Detroit last year. We forget about that, right? Remember Detroit beat Green Bay? But they're that. The Green Bay Packers have kept the Seahawks in and out of the playoffs, and they came down to the last week. I don't know. I'm just saying, probably isn't financially feasible and probably not even football feasible, but they're in that weird spot right in the middle where it's like, are you fully invested in your quarterback and your coach, or are you hemming and hawing about not fully upset, not fully committed? weird spot to be in. All right. We've got Cam Meller from the College Football Network joining us to talk Michigan, Washington, and where college football is headed after this game. The confetti's going to fall and college football is going to change. That's all next, 620 Rip City Radio. day for me. It is college football's biggest game of the year. It's the national championship game, Washington and Michigan. And this Oregon fan's going through a lot of emotions. Obviously, with the fact that the Washington Huskies are potentially one win away from winning a no doubt legitimate national title, as opposed to the split one they won in 1991 that we like to remind them of as many chances as possible. But on top of that, while it is college football's biggest game, it's also the end of the year. But good news is, transfer portal still portaling. Still have players waiting to declare or return. College football realignment is continuing to go on. And you know that just when you think it is too quiet in these college football streets, something's going to happen. So joining us now to talk about all of that, friend of the program, executive director of the College Football Network, Cam Mellor, back on the big show. Good morning, Cam. How are you?
Yeah, I share your sentiment. It's a delightful day, right? We have football back, but that's it. Then we go into the deep, dark out of the summertime. Before we know it, we'll be wallowing in our sorrows in June and July. So, bittersweet day.
It's also, here's another reason why it's a little bittersweet day for me, Cam. And I know, obviously, you run the College Football Network. You look at college football from a national perspective. I am still very much a fan. I love all of college football, but I'm still very much a fan, and I still carry fan tendencies. And all of me despises Washington. Now, here's the problem, Cam. I can't not like Michael Penix. He's so likable. It's so irritating and it's so annoying as an Oregon fan, and I would imagine this is what Washington fans felt like about 9 years ago with Marcus Mariota, but, like, I can't not like the guy. And I know you talked about your biggest winners in the bowl season. Has there been a guy in one bowl game that's kind of upped his stock? Because all of us on the West Coast know exactly what Penix was doing in that game against Texas. But it seemed like the rest of the world all kind of woke up and was like, oh, that's why they play their games real late out there.
Yeah, I didn't. I would say it's a double-edged sword, right? Did he improve his draft stock? Probably not, because it's probably higher than what the general national public thinks of him already. I think if you're looking at NFL decision makers, they know who Michael Penix is. They know how good he can be. And you look at the national audience, so who goes to sleep after the SEC games, right? They're looking at like, holy cow, who is this guy? Is this the same kid from Indiana? You know, we saw a couple of stories pop up that I did not expect to, and it was literally, who is Michael Penix popping up? So deny the narrative all you want. Rest of the nation, the narrative still is true. Pac-12 games after dark, virtually after dark for most of the audience. So he didn't move the needle. He just showed who he is against a decent Texas defense and did his thing to really solidify who he is for the next level as well.
Well, and one of the things specifically, and we talked about it on the show, because if you've watched any Pac-12 football, you know that what looks like with Michael Penix a 50-50 ball is like that's 85-15 ball. I think that's just what they do. He throws the deep fade as well as anybody. And more importantly, Cam, his receivers never drop the ball, right? It's got to be super nice. You got a trio of receivers. They very rarely, if ever, drop the ball. They seem to run perfect routes. They seem to have everything with DeBoer's system all packed in. How is that matchup going to affect Michigan? How do you like – let's just start on the offensive side. With what Washington has been able to do, throwing the ball deep and that receiving core, how does Michigan's defensive backfield and defensive front match up against the Huskies tonight?
It's super interesting because I think it's like a strength versus strength. As much as you might say the defensive line was maybe the best in the nation, Michigan's defensive line might be able to throw them for some loops in this game, so it's all going to come down to coverage and receivers. We'll hear Kirk Herbstreit say it again for however many times he's talked about Rome having incredibly strong hands at the catch point. You'll hear it every game. You'll hear it multiple times whenever Odunze is targeted this evening. So that is such a testament to him, though. I look back and the best Michael Penix is what got Zach Wilson at second overall. That ability to throw his receivers open. You mentioned those 50-50 balls that are probably 85-15. That's what Michael Penix does so well, right? And you're going to see a couple of those. He's going to have those against Mike Samerstill, Will Johnson, and that secondary. I think what separates the Michigan defense is their depth, and that's at every single position. There's not one guy that's going to be a Husky killer. It is a multitude of dudes that rotate in and out. So Washington's going to have to be on their game offensively, and you're going to have to see some of those 50-50 balls that are indeed, in fact, in favor of Washington for them to get the job done.
Cam Mellor from the College Football Network joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. And whether it is in the national title setting, Cam, or whether it's just in a big-time bowl setting, there's always been a narrative, and sometimes it's correct, sometimes it's a little lazy. But that is West Coast plays offense, finesse football. Midwest, SEC, they play smash mouth. It's about the trenches, and it's going to be, can the offensive line of Washington or the defensive line and linebackers of Washington keep up with the physicality of Michigan? We heard that, I heard that back when it was Oregon and Ohio State, which was true because Ezekiel Elliott was really good. Is that the case here? Michigan looks like all year like they have just bullied teams. You go back to that Penn State game. You look at what they did, especially in that fourth quarter against Alabama. They have been able to essentially do whatever they want on the ground. Does Washington stand a chance with that front seven or with that offensive line of Michigan tonight?
It's going to be a difficult ask, right? I think it's two different brands of football you mentioned, and it's yes, lazy when you just look at it on the surface level, but when you actually do dig deep here, how does Washington win? It's with speed, and it's with these getting everybody out in space, and Michigan takes the air out of the ball. They don't give it to J.J. McCarthy to do that as well, and they bank on the strength of their defense to limit. Let's face it, Michigan might have the number one ranked defense. They're very, very good, but is there any offense that they play that scares you this year? No. And so I do think that there is a distinct advantage in how well and how quickly Washington can get out of the gate, so to speak. I'll give it to Kalen DeBauer and say he knows how to win through a playoff system. We've not seen Jim Harbaugh have to rally his troops for a second game in the playoffs yet, and we've not seen them have much success in that quick turnaround, whereas Howard's done it time and time before, not obviously with this team, but in his career. So he might know and have that advantage. If they come out of the gates with this scripted offense, I think they mitigate that differing of play styles between trench warfare and these guys just smacking him out to that Washington speed really being the difference in this game.
Cam, every once in a while, I like to play like executive producer, and I've always thought of there's a whole lot of stories, and now a lot of this is because I'm a college football nerd, but there's a lot of stories that I would love to see become 30 for 30s or Netflix series, and done right, not like the puff piece that was done for the Florida Gators, but done right, and like we are sitting here in the middle of an absolute 30 for 30 documentary with the Michigan Wolverines. This thing is fascinating, Cam, from the beginning of the season when the school suspended Jim Harbaugh because he lied to NCAA investigators about hamburgers, to then the Connor Stallions thing where he was he dressed up as a Central Michigan assistant coach with Ray-Bans that were filming signals? We don't know. It certainly looked like it. Then the conference then suspends Jim Harbaugh. They continue to win. Then they go in and run roughshod over Iowa in the Big Ten championship. They beat Alabama. They're in the national title game, all in a season where, and by the way, I haven't even mentioned that once again, Jim Harbaugh, is he going to the NFL? There's a lot of teams out there that seem to want him. There's a lot of reports out there. What a season for Michigan. How on earth have they not fallen apart with all the craziness that's gone on with them?
Yeah, I give the credit to Sharon Moore, right? Yeah. Obviously, he made waves when he cursed on air after the victory game, but that's who he is. He's a passionate guy who the proverbial, you want to run through a brick wall for, and the teams are willing to do that with him. I think two things before I get out of here without, I would be remiss to say it, Michigan suspends Harbaugh, and when the Big Ten suspends him, they get mad and say he didn't do anything. Well, hey, you guys suspended him a little bit ago. Let's not remind or forget that. But Sharon Moore and Harbaugh allowed his staff to make changes at halftime. When he was gone for those 6 games, they were allowed. They had carte blanche over adjustments at halftime. And what did they do? The most famous one is they took the ball out of there. They didn't throw a single pass against Penn State, and they won easily. The halftime adjustments from this coaching staff, we saw it in the Rose Bowl. We saw it move on. We've seen it in every game that they've needed to, or that they've been pressed in action so far. And literally, they've been able to make adjustments on the fly and at halftime specifically to be a better team in the second half. And that's what's won them most of their games that they've been in any question. So giving the staff the ability and the freedom to test with Harbaugh, because not a lot of head coaches want to do that.
Cam Mellor is the executive director of the College Football Network. He's joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. And we talked about kind of the bittersweet nature of tonight, because game's going to end, confetti's going to fall, somebody's going to lift a trophy. And then just like that, Cam, college football is going to change, right? It is not going to look anything like we have known it. It's going to be, conference expansion. We have seen the transfer portal already become a thing. The 12-team playoff is going to happen. And so we've been kind of looking back. We've had this 4-team playoff for nearly a decade, not quite a decade, but nearly a decade. If you kind of look back at kind of what it was supposed to be, what it has become, versus the old system, the bowl system, and obviously the BCS system, which had very much flaws. Did it work? Did the college football playoff and putting 4 teams in with 5 power conferences, did it work for the last 9 years, or was this the biggest Band-Aid of a sports league that we've ever seen?
This year was a Band-Aid. I think previous 8 seasons, I think we got it. I think we worked our way towards having the best team win through the best 4 teams. But ultimately, what I think when we saw it, this year was a microcosm of what could go wrong when you allow, instead of a computer system to pick it, you allow 8, 9, 10 individuals who, admittedly, they did not watch every single game this season, and you let them choose who they think is the best. There's too many levels of nuance when you have 8 individuals sitting in a room saying, okay, this team plays, there's so many variables. So, yes, was the computer system accurate? Not all the time, and it was a scapegoat. But, no, I think they got it right for the most part, but this was a huge, huge blunder in how it could go wrong. And there's no other way forward, in my opinion, unless we expand or go back to a computer system, and nobody wants that.
So when you look ahead, and obviously this is an unfair question, but when you look ahead to the 12-team playoff, there's a lot of people that believe, well, it's just going to fix everything, right? You're just going to go to a 12-team, play some games on campus. But as we have seen with bowl system to BCS to college, there's always something that when you tinker with the system. But is this the magic bullet going to the 12-team system? I mean, obviously somebody at 13 is going to be upset, but like we do at the college basketball, like that's done by Thursday at noon. Is the 12-team playoff kind of the magic bullet here for college football?
Yes, I'd say at least at this point. Once we became the 4, there was only one way to go, and that was up in terms of the amount of teams that make the postseason. Yes, you're going to have 13. You'll probably 14, 15 complain. My only fear is that fan bases get even more abhorrent and not unnecessarily annoying, is that the first 12-team playoff victor becomes now the greatest champion of all time because they had to get through more than any other team in history. So, we're not ever complaining too much about the FCS results when those happen because the team that won deserves every lick of credit they deserve. And so I think we'll get there. I'm just worried about those over-annoying fans that are going to say that my team is the best ever.
We're definitely going to see an asterisk, right? Up, like not a negative asterisk, but like a positive asterisk on like the stadium ring. If like, I don't know, let's just say Alabama wins it next year, and then it's like, hey, 2024 12-team playoff champion. Like, there's definitely going to be some kind of notoriety thrown up on a stadium somewhere.
It just needs to not be an SEC team, and I think maybe it'll be okay from there going forward, because I'm not ready to read about it, hear about it, and then, unfortunately, they get to talk about it for 6-7 months afterwards next year. So, yeah, hopefully a non-SEC team next year.
Cam Mellor, Executive Director of the College Football Network, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. This is something we are interested in. We were talking about it earlier today. Because the transfer portal has been fascinating, and we are seeing, Matt Rule kind of came out a couple of weeks ago and was like, hey, guys, $1.5 million, $2 million. That's how much quarterback's going to cost. And Oregon not only got 1, but got 2. Don't know how much Phil Knight had to cut for 2 quarterbacks in the transfer portal, but they got them. And then there's some other guys that ended up interesting places, and one of them that is fascinating is Malachi Nelson, a guy who was a 5-star, top 3, depending on whether it's Arch Manning or Dante Moore or him, ended up at USC. He knew he wasn't going to be playing over Caleb Williams, leaves, ends up at Boise. And, Cam, you look at it and it's like, is this like I'm going to go to the Mountain West, put up a bunch of crazy numbers, and be able to kind of write my check somewhere next year and kind of use Boise, and they're going to use you? Like, how does a guy of this kind of notoriety in the transfer portal end up at Boise?
I don't know. It's got to be money, absolutely. NIL certainly helps in that regard. Maybe hey, we can give you X, Y, Z, and we'll be happy to let you go forward with your next program. Just get us there next year type of thing. I hope that it isn't just that. I hope that maybe it's Spencer Danielson being an amazing coach that we all have heard so many great things of. I thought he was the best person to lead them forward when they fired Coach Velas as well. So to me, I'm hoping it's old school college football at its finest. Danielson in Nelson's house, talking and preaching why you should come play for me. I hope to it, but I don't think that's always the only reason for it going forward. The new wave of the future, right, is being able to transfer the one time and then go again as well. We'll see if it happens and if he's able to cut his check. But to me, I'm very excited to watch him play within that Mountain West, and if he is that number 1, 2, or 3, whoever you rank him coming out of high school, if he is that guy, he should do that. And he'll have two Power 5 games on their schedule. I believe Washington State and Oregon State to play against. So to me, I hope we see it. The wave of the future, though, in a small window, the vacuum in terms of the transfer portal.
All right, Kim, before we let you go, it's Black Monday. It used to be a Black Monday in the NFL. Now they're firing guys on Sunday night. They're firing guys in the middle of the season, and they're not wasting any time. But there's always seemingly kind of that surprise college coach that maybe you didn't see coming. Matt Rule was kind of one of those guys where it's just like, hey, I'm going to go try my stuff in the NFL. Harbaugh obviously has been linked to a ton of jobs, and he's always going to be. I think you were saying in a couple weeks, you could just set your watch to it, right? It's just like calendar's going to turn. Jim Harbaugh's going to be negotiating with the NFL to try to get a big deal with Michigan. But when you kind of look at some of the coaches out there, and again, this is a complete guess, but is there anybody out there where you're like, hey, keep an eye on this guy for potential NFL guy jumping up?
Yeah, I don't have one this year. I have Harbaugh, and I think NFL teams have, because I would look at it and I'd say maybe Kirby Smart's that guy. He runs it like a pro team already. Maybe Nick Saban wants out of Alabama and goes to an advisory role of some kind, so he doesn't have to do daily grind anymore. They're both using up there, but I think with how much money is in college athletics and, not how easy it is, but how well they performed recently, those two guys would maybe, give me I would maybe give it a second thought. But I think what we're looking at now is, you want a college coach that's done well in college that also has some NFL experience before in a winning magnitude. I think that's why Harbaugh is the only name we might hear this circuit. And whether he does it or not, that's the big thing, because no matter what, as long as he's in college, we're going to continue to hear Harbaugh's name. So, to me, I don't have a guy this year. Something like Willie Fritz wouldn't have surprised me had he not taken the Houston job, though, however, from Tulane going up and coaching somewhere in the Bayou or somewhere down that we got roots. But no one other than Harbaugh this year I have.
Cam Miller, Executive Director, College Football Network. You can follow him on Twitter at Cam Miller. Before we go, who you got tonight? Who do you think's taking home the trophy?
I don't want to say it, but Washington Huskies. I don't think Michigan's faced an offense like this, and I'll pull for the Huskies. I can't believe it's as big of an underdog shot as they're going to be right now when the books close. But give me the Huskies.
Isn't I think Kalen DeBoer, isn't he 12-0 against teams in the top 10? He has some insane record again, because Oregon was a couple of those teams on that win-loss record. And, yeah, last thing you want to be is a top 10 team going up against Kalen DeBoer. Hey, Cam, thanks so much for your time. Always appreciate you coming on the big show. Have a great week. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll talk to you again soon.
You as well. Happy New Year and happy last day of the season.
There we go. Cam Miller of the College Football Network. He says Huskies.
Well, I go with the coach that's lost 11 times in his entire career. So, not bad. Not bad.
Not bad. Well, and
11 times, Justin.
I think it's 12. I think it's 12-0. I might have that wrong, but I think Kalen DeBoer, against top 10 teams, he'd never lost. I know he hasn't lost.
It just makes it even more impressive
insane
when you're those 11 losses. 6 of them were at Fresno State, so he's lost 5 games.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost unbelievable. But do you blame him, Justin? I'm kind of with Cam. That offense, that team. I do. I would take UW right now.
Real quick, it's either the old adage of, hey, power football, going to smack you in the mouth, you don't have anything, or it's the other one, which I hate to say might be the case, which is Big Ten doesn't know about this kind of offense. You know what I mean? They don't. I know Ohio State's got some weapons.
Ohio State would be the closest call.
They got some weapons, but the Big Ten, they don't know about this kind of offense. They don't know. A team that's got not one, not two, three receivers averaging 100 yards per game. It's insane. They never drop the ball. They never drop the ball. I mean, you know what I mean? It's throwing in a double coverage into it's yeah, don't worry. Odunze is going to come down with the ball every single time. All right. We've got the RCM mailbag to wrap up the big show next, 620 Rip City Radio. Mailbag.
It's time for the RCM mailbag. With any question, any topic, Justin can't duck the tough question. What do we have first?
All right, Justin and our listening audience, hope you guys are having an awesome Monday. Coming to you guys with the mailbag today.
Yes.
Justin, we're going to start a little off the wall, unconventional, because I was 27 years old when I found out something over the weekend.
That is how old you are right now.
Yes.
For those that don't know.
Yes, and I need to get your thoughts on this because it absolutely blew my mind. So, I did what you did, Justin, all too often. I went to Costco on a Saturday.
Yeah, buddy.
It was a mistake. It was a mistake. I will tell my family again we need to go to Costco during the week. But somehow, someway, we went to Costco over the weekend. And Justin, I found out, and you might be like, Brandon, I knew this forever. They make washer, dryer combos now.
Yeah.
Where it's all in one. And you don't need to transfer clothes from a washer to a dryer.
Yeah, they make it all in one.
It absolutely blew my mind. So you already knew that. I had no idea.
But that's cool. Like,
It blew my mind. And I was like, if and when you'll probably need to get new laundry machines in your lifetime, would you be opposed to just getting one?
here's the thing.
It feels weird just to buy one.
Yeah, it's like...
I don't know. Anyway, that's how I wanted to start the mailbag.
It's like, like cars that can park themselves now.
Yes.
It's like, I don't know about that. You know? Like, the technology's moving a little too fast for me. Like, I know that you say it works, but does it really work? And it's like, there's no way that, like, you wash the clothes, do the thing, and then that thing becomes it's freaking me out, man. It's too much, right?
Yes.
But
So my mind was blown, and I was like, wait, really? I mean, don't get me wrong. They're expensive and all that. But
look, you're still talking to a guy that has a cable box. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I know that I could do everything through the Wi-Fi and all that stuff, but it's like still kind of freaking me out. Like I don't trust it. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, that's the future, though, right? That's going to be it? Just one machine?
it was just it was the casuality, which it was like, oh yeah, look, it's a washer dryer combo, and I'm like, wait, what?
And don't they also have, now I still have the soap. I put because I have a front-loading washer, so I don't have the pods. Because, you got to put it in the little tray. And if you put the pods in the tray, they get stuck, and it's a whole thing.
Yep.
But, now, I think they also, and I still use a dryer sheet.
Yep, I do too. Yep, dryer sheets.
But now they have things where it's just like, you pop it in, and it's like, it washes your clothes, and then even if you move it to the dryer, it's got whatever the dryer sheet is already there.
I mean, all I have to say in defense of this, Justin, is Justin and I have talked about how, cell phone companies have collectively sat on their hands for the last 20 years and been like, yeah, cell phone's good enough. It's as good as it was in 2003. Justin, the fine folks at Whirlpool and GE
they've
and
been in the lab.
Samsung, they've been in the lab
getting it done.
man. I just got to give that some sort of credit. But nevertheless.
But yeah, that is it's an interesting thing. Now, does that become I'm trying to think of what else is in the same room, because there were certain things where it's just like, hey, let's just combine stuff, and it became kind of a novelty, and people realized, no, we actually liked it.
Like coffee, where it used to have to grind the beans.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we got a grinder and a thing, and it's just like,
now it just comes up on.
yeah. So maybe that's the way of the future. But yeah, I've seen those before. I mean, I don't know if I'm living high enough on the hog to afford one of those.
I've seen them, and I was like, woo! And my family was like, yep, if we ever need more washer dryers, that might be where we have to go. And I was like, man.
One and done. But
yeah.
In my head, I'm like, there's no way it can do as good of a job as something that is solely dedicated to the washing and then one that is solely dedicated to the drying. But, maybe that's the deal. Maybe that's what's going on.
Yeah, no, it would be, it would definitely be interesting. So anyway, all that to say, that caught my eye on